Welcome to episode 45 of Crowd Inc. My name is Alan Predolin, and today we're going to talk about cash to contract. Now, we talked about it already a little bit during episode 44, but I want to really kind of nail down this cash to contract and what it means and why it's so important and why without this value, it is very difficult to figure out what is it that you're supposed to do with your contract, with your school, with your payment, with your formal payments. So first, I have to give a shout out because it doesn't matter what level, I consider myself relatively successful. You know, I'm growing, I'm building a program, I have a decent sized school and everything else, but I have to give a shout out to Paul Garcia because he's actually the one that, you know, brought this up in the past few weeks. And he's one of my mentors. You know, I started working with him not too long ago, but I really love what he's doing. Paul is an incredible martial artist. He's a black belt in Krav Maga, but he was a competitive fighter for many years, more into sport karate and that circuit, but incredible person. He did kickboxing, he did pro kickboxing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But he owns 5 incredibly successful schools in Rhode Island area and by Massachusetts, and he's been really a pioneer of the first generation of consultants that were out there. Meaning, he was one of those guys that were following the Greg Silvas and the Steve LaValle and all these guys that were the first generation consultants that brought these schools before the schools were cool. They had in 1980s and 1990s 1,000 students, 400 students, 500 students before the internet, before everything. So very incredible. So Paul is a product of that period, but he's also, a younger guy. I mean, he's about my age, so I think he's young. And he's, like I said, he's really focusing on helping schools like ours take their business to the next level. So big shout out to Paul, and I felt like I had to do this since we were talking about cash to contract. Now, cash to contract is very important because it's really the value that kind of runs your school. Or, when you don't understand the cash to contract value, that you have to put on students, that becomes an issue. So cash to contract in layman's terms is you have to understand, first, you should have a contract. Let's start from that. This weekend I was talking to a couple of people at other schools, and I'll give a shout out later to some of the school owners that I visited. But I was talking about the fact that when you do month to month, and 44 was about paid in full, but when you do month to month, you can't assign a good value to the students. Because realistically, when month to month, the only value that you can give on is that maybe that registration, that down payment, and that first month, or first and last, however you do it. So now all of a sudden that value is, say, of $200, $300, $400, and then your marketing and your acquisition cost has to be based on that value. Now, the contract is important. Why? Because if that person all of a sudden has a value of $200 or $2,000 a year, listen, the average school is between $125, $135, and $175 in the United States right now. So that's kind of the range. So when you look at it like that, we know that we're about $2,000, and that's where my school is, at $2,000 per year. Now, that's a value that gives me the chance to be able to focus my marketing in a certain way. If I know that I'm trying to acquire students at $150 value, I'm going to spend nothing. If I know that those students have a value of $2,000, now all of a sudden my marketing changes completely. Now, having said that, the $2,000 is still a theoretical number unless we use a cash to contract matrix in it, because we need to make sure that we have a stats that tells us how many of these people, we have 100 people that signed up for our program. Am I actually getting $200,000? Because unless you don't understand, unless you know exactly what that number is, that becomes a big problem. So I encourage you right now, we're at the end of 2018, and look at your stats for the past, let's say 12 months, even if it's from January, and kind of look at how many people signed up and to see actually how many are still in the program, because that will impact your number too. The better your cash to contract stat is, the more you know that that student value is of $2,000. But if you're having problems with retention at month 6, 7, 3, 9, and you're never getting those $200,000, that becomes an issue because your cash to contract value changes. Okay, so it's very important that we're conscious of that as much as possible, because that really will help our planning of marketing, of the school, of everything else. So look at your school, look how many students you put in, look how much money you pulled out. Now, I'm a big fan of paid in full option and so on, okay? Some people are not. When I did lifetime memberships, people are telling me, oh, but you're doing lifetime, you're losing money. Now, listen, if I have somebody that pays for my school $5,000, $6,000 in cash, they're going to my school. Now, I give you a little example. Last count that I had with my lifetime was 295. So when you look at 295, and I've had people that had contracts, before we were doing $3,500. Let's say an average of 295 times, say an average of 4,000. Okay, that's $1.18 million. That's just what paid in full. That is money that it will not come back. You know what I mean? That's money that in most cases, and I still have lifetimes that train, but I love it that people come and go and whatever else, because ultimately, past a certain point, if you think about it, your value is 2 years, of 1 year is $2,000. 2 years is $4,000. 3 years is $6,000. How many of your students actually stay for 3 years? And a lot of the schools that I know, most of the students that stay for 3 years, they start teaching. And then before you know it, you have, again, it would be great to have people for 10 years stay on average and pay you whatever, but that is not the way it works. So you have to look at it. Now, there's 1.1, almost 1.2, let's say, by the way, because we have family add-ons and whatever else also. That is just the number of the contracts. Then we have people that have 2, 3, 4 people on there, so obviously the number increases. But those are people, I just increased that number. If I looked at those people with the average, let's say, length of a membership of about a year, that number would be, less than half of that. In some cases, it'll be a third of that. So it's very important that you're realistic about your numbers, and then you set your school with a plan. And in order to do that, sometimes I'm still surprised that people have this anecdotal evidence of what is going on to the school. No, but people stay for a long time. How do they stay for a long time if you have nobody, you've been open for a long time? So the homework is cash to contract. Look in actuality what is the value of your students first, and then look at what the lifespan of the students. Are you getting what you set out to get with that contract? You sign up $200,000 in contract, per year, means 100 students at $2,000 each. Are you getting $200,000? If the answer is no, call me. Okay, write me an email at alan@360crowdmyguy.com, but you can figure it out. I promise you look at that number and you'll be able to draw some conclusion. But stop just kind of going in the blind. This is a flashlight. It's a flashlight that's going to shine light on areas of your business that right now you don't think are a problem, and instead are a huge problem. I want to know exactly every time somebody comes in what their value is going to be, and I'm going to try to make sure that is as close to that value as possible that we actually get. Obviously, paid in full, it's a 100% cash to contract. Paid in fulls are 100% cash to contract value. It's important. When you go into monthly, how are your percentages? If you are into the 90s, that's great. 80s, it's okay. 70s, it's a problem. 60s and 50s, that's where most of the people are that don't know these numbers, and that's something that it's important to look at. So cash to contract. Now, big shout out at my Nashville crew, my school owner, Justin Swanson, Bill Wright, and obviously my brother from another somebody, Brian Peters, that owns the 360 Krav Maga in Spring Hill. I love going over there. It's a great place, great students. We have 3 facilities, all in opposite area of Nashville. Really cool. Core Krav Maga just came back from Virginia. Tammy, obviously Andy, Jesse, Michaela, Allison. I mean, so many people, Glenn and so on. So many people in the Active Network. Obviously Dan, Tammy's husband, that it's always awesome. But I mean, it's just a great school. They were Krav Maga Global for a long time, and now they came on board with me. I love when schools come over. It wasn't a requirement. I have a few schools right now that I don't want to say, but they're also KMG and working with 360. And that's okay too. I told you guys, my goal is to help you have access to training and training methodologies that will help you at your school and build a killer business, okay? Active Network, go to KravMagaUniversity.com, sign up for the Active Network. Let me help you. Let other people in the network help you. You help other people. Be part of the network. Paul Garcia, thank you for everything. Remember, episode 46 coming soon. Lots of stuff going on. Go to KravMagaUniversity.com and sign up for the Active Network.